Hello, everybody. Welcome to this meeting. Please welcome our Toastmaster today, Shitra.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to start by reading a poem. All that glittered, all that gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. This was J.R.R. Tolkien's poem from the Fellowship of the Ring, if anybody likes the Lord of the Rings series. One big line that has touched me in this is not all those who wander are lost. We always take it for granted every day is a new day. We can have a fresh start, a new beginning. To bring a new beginning, we have to let go of our routines and some relationships as well. One example of that is putting us out of the comfort zone. And one such thing is putting me out of the comfort zone and talking to you here guys today. The Toastmasters meeting is divided into 3 sections: the prepared speech sections, the table topic session, and the evaluation sections. And these 3 sections are governed by 3 functionaries of the day. I would like to welcome Ashutosh, who is the timer of the day, who makes sure that we don't get lost in the time segment. Let us welcome Ashutosh.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'm Ashutosh, and I'll be your timer for the day. For the prepared speeches today, we will have 7 minutes. The speakers will have 7 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, I'll show you this green book. At the 6-minute mark, I'll show you this orange folder. And at the 7-minute mark, I'll show you this red book. At the end of the 7 minutes, you will have 30 more seconds to wrap up your speech. Thank you. Over to you, Madam Table Topics Master. Sorry, Toastmaster.
Yeah, Ashutosh. Let's hear from our grammarian Grant, who makes sure that we don't get lost in our words.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. So as a grammarian, I'll be looking out for interesting and/or incorrect uses of grammar and words. And I'm also here to introduce the word of the day, Odyssey. I hope on my screen, as I'm sure you guys are aware, it's reversed, but I'm sure it's fine on yours, hopefully. Odyssey means, well, there's 2 general definitions of Odyssey. One is a long wandering or voyage, usually marked by many changes of fortune. And the other, similarly, is an intellectual or spiritual wandering or quest. To use a word in a sentence, I'll tell you about a story I read today. In the 1970s, an Indian man went on an odyssey by riding his bike from India to Sweden, where the love of his life was waiting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Another functionary we have is the accounter Bhakti, who makes sure we don't get lost in our thoughts.
So I'll be looking for filler words within your speech. So try to minimize the use of filler words. And at the end, I'll be providing a report. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Bhakti. Let's dive into the first section of prepared speeches. The first speaker is Hassan. Evaluating Hassan is Preetham. Let's hear from Preetham more about Hassan's speech.
So, all right, Hassan is going to present a speech which is about researching and presenting. The purpose of his speech is to review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. Back to Toastmaster.
I asked Hassan about when was the last time you felt you were lost and how did you find your way through it. He said during this time of quarantine, his roommate had moved to Minnesota. And during this time, he felt lost. And he took this as an opportunity to find himself listening to music, reading and cooking, and bringing his interest in that. Hassan is here to talk all about superstitions. Hassan, it's welcome.
In 2012, I visited Senegal for 1 month. The day I was going back home, I met at the airport an Iceman working there. So we spent like 20 to 30 minutes talking to each other. And when I was going to board, he presented me his left hand, which I found weird because we usually shake the right hand. And he told me, you know, in Senegal, when someone is traveling and we wish to see him again, we shake his left hand. And this is just one of the 1 million superstitions that I discovered in this West African country. Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Of course, Senegal is not the only country in the world where people are superstitious. For instance, this 2014 survey by Harris Poll found that 23% of adults in the US believe that 7 is a lucky number. And we usually say, bless you when someone sneezes. And those who are familiar with baseball know that there are many superstitions in this sport. So I wanted to know, why are we superstitious? And where the superstitions are from? Stuart Weiss, who is a psychologist and the author of a book titled Believing in Magic, The Psychology of Superstitions, say that nobody was born superstitious. Actually, the superstitions are born in our minds since the very beginning. That's why we grow up believing that by crossing our fingers or knocking on wood, we can wish luck. And for the same purpose in India, many people drink yogurt every morning before heading out. As far as I'm concerned, I grew up believing that an itchy palm means that money is coming on my way. And the second reason people are superstitious is that superstitions can have a soothing effect and give people a sense of control over their lives. And according to Stuart Weiss, superstitions emerge in situations where people can't always control the outcome. That's why most of our superstitions we have are related to luck or fortune. So where are all those superstitions from? So the first source is religion. One of the most common superstitions is the fear of number 13. And it takes its origin in the Last Supper, where Judas, who betrayed Jesus, was the 13th guest. Since people started believing that having 13 guests at the table is a bad luck, and later on, this belief was extended to number 13. But if you go to a country with a different religion or belief, people don't even know this fear of number 13. And you may find a building with a 13th floor, or even the room number 13 in a hospital. And the second source of coincidence of superstitions is just coincidence. In China, for instance, many people believe that 4 is an unlucky number, just because in Cantonese, the word 4 sounds like the word for death. On the other hand, the lucky number is 8, because it sounds like the word for wealth. And that's why the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing started on August 8th at 8 p.m. local time. So most of the superstitions we have may seem not rational, but some of them really make sense because they are made up to protect the people or the natural resources. Shitra told me that in many parts of India, it's considered a bad luck to cut your nails after sunset. But according to a journalist, Maridu Rai, this makes sense because you can hurt yourself when trying to cut your nails in the dark. And my mother grew up in a rural area where people don't have running water. And she told me that when she was a child, she used to be told that by using too much water when taking a bath, she can wash away her fortune. And later on, she realized that this superstition was just made to deter people from wasting water, which is a really precious liquid in her village. So some of you may ask, is it good or bad to be superstitious? Well, it's true that some people can take superstitions too far. For instance, someone may engage in excessive gambling just because he's wearing his lucky shirts. And this was supported by research from Australia that found a positive relationship between problem gamblers' superstitious belief and the gambling intensity. But on the other hand, Vice says that superstitions do help with anxiety, and they can boost self-confidence and enhance performance. For instance, Michael Jordan, who is considered the greatest basketball player of all time, used to wear the same underwear for every game since college. And in the world of business, Jeff Bezos, for instance, who is the richest man on earth, has lucky boots that he wears every time his company is launching a rocket. So are they successful because they are superstitious? Maybe. I grew up believing that as a twin, I have magical power. This is what I was told when I was a child. But when I realized that I can get a rabbit out of a hat, I stopped believing in superstitions. But I'm still fascinated by them because they are part of every culture around the world. And for me, superstitions show that whatever we believe in or wherever we are from, we all have something in common, a constant desire to control our destinies. It's ToastMasters Day.
Thank you, Hassan, for a wonderful speech. One of the greatest joy in any work is the feedback session of it, what you felt and what could be improved. Please take a minute to send your love note to Hassan on things you liked about his speech and places where he could improve. Mr. Timer, can you give me a hold of 1 minute? The next prepared speech is by Ajita. Evaluating her is Kelly. Kelly, let's hear from you more about Ajita's speech.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Tonight, Ajita is going to be sharing from the innovative planning pathway. She'll be speaking level 1, project 2. And I asked her what she would like me to be looking for tonight, and she said to observe some vocal variety being used and also to look for expressions being used tonight. So we're looking forward to another wonderful speech from Ajita, and I'll be looking for those things to give her some feedback afterwards. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kelly. I asked Ajita when was the last time you found yourself lost and found a way through it. She told me a story about when she went to Chicago and then she got off in the wrong train station and waited there for an hour with her phone dead, and then she took in the deserted train station, and then she took the next train, and then realizing her mistake, and then she found her friend waiting for her at the station for a very long time. Friendships do mean a lot at this time, I feel. Let's welcome Ajita to talk about Ma. Ajita.
It all started when I was born. Most babies have one mother, but I was blessed to have four. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. My family consisted of four strong women, including my mother, who took care of a household of 18 people. Yes, it was a huge joint family with grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins all staying together in the same house. One of the first things which I was taught was to call each of my aunt as mom. And it was that one small word which inculcated the feeling of a mother-daughter relationship equally with all four of them. My eldest mother was Badi Mummy. Badi in Hindi means the eldest. She was the religious one. Since childhood, she used to always take me to temple every day and teach me all different kinds of prayers. She taught me the importance of waking up early in the morning and worshipping the sun. She would encourage me to follow different rituals during different festivals. One of the rituals was to go to the temple at 5 a.m. in the holy month of Kartik, which generally falls during the month of September. I used to enjoy waking up early during those winter months and attend celebrations and prayers at the temple. The best part was getting sweets at the end of it all. My second mother was Lakshmi Ma. She was the one who taught me the value of education. She was so strict with all the kids in the house and made sure everyone completed their homeworks on time. Before every exam, she used to make me sit down and explain the importance of neat and clear handwriting. And she would say, Ajita, if you don't write your answer neatly, the teacher would not understand even if you answered it correctly. And it was because of that that I started writing neatly and sometimes got bonus points too. Then was Kantama. Kantama did not have a daughter of her own, so she always considered me her own daughter. She taught me so many different housekeeping skills. Once, when I was just three years old, I wanted to make a flat bread known as roti, but I was scared that I might burn my fingers on the hot pan. It was then that she taught me how to be bold and let me make it with her. Although it was the most shapeless and burnt roti of all, my father really appreciated it. And she told me that don't be afraid of trying new things. Even if no one appreciates it, your father will always have your back. She taught me so many different skills, be it mending my own clothes, ironing them and arranging them neatly in the cupboard. She used to always repeat one saying in Hindi, which literally translates to, an ironed old dress looks much better than an unironed new dress. My fourth mother and the youngest of them all was my mom. She was the tough one. She taught me how to be strong, determined, and disciplined. She never allowed us to bunk school and made sure we had 100% attendance. No number of tantrums would work with her. And it's because of that habit that even today, I don't miss any of my classes or an appointment unless it's an emergency. She taught me how to be smart with my finances. I remember observing her during one of the financial crunch in our household. She managed those difficult times with utmost courage and conviction. She taught us how to get the best of a current situation. She never gave up during those difficult times, and it was that skill she instilled in me which keeps me going despite any difficult circumstances. She taught all the children how to be humble and caring, strong and determined, and still continues to do so. We stayed together in the joint family for a few more years until the family started expanding and we all moved into separate houses. When we were all staying together, my mom taught me life lessons which I still cherish till today. The bond which was formed during my childhood still stays strong. And in fact, now the roles have reversed. Every time I talk to any of my mom and tell them something new, they are eager to see the world through my eyes. Growing up in a house where I was surrounded with 4 women, each excelling in different way, taught me so many valuable lessons that I can proudly say, I'm a strong woman because 4 strong women raised me. Madam Toastmaster.
That was one inspiring speech. And we got to learn more about you. Let's all take 1 minute to send a love note to Ajita on her speech. The next in the list of having a prepared speech is Matt's prepared speech. Evaluating Matt is Roberta. Roberta, tell us more about Matt's speech.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, as Matt's evaluator, I will be evaluating his speech from his Motivational Strategies Pathway, Level 3, Project 2. It's a speech that is in praise of another person. He's also asked me to look for his pace in slowing down and effectively using pauses. Best of luck, Matt.
I also asked Matt on how he, on a situation where he felt lost and how he found a way through it. The last 3 months, he felt he had burnt out from work, and he found a way by staying more connected with the closest people nearest to him. Let's hear from Matt, more than just a good guy.
I was at a stand-up comedy night at the Angry Goat in Rochester. And there was this stand-up comedian up there, and he started to give a joke. And he said, there was this politician talking about religion. The politician, your president, said, there was a muslin. Muslin is a fine cloth. What's he trying to ban from the country, a fabric? Muslim is a religion. Laughter erupted, and I was in awe. I wasn't in awe because of how much laughter there was. I was in awe because of the risk that this stand-up comedian takes, sharing so vulnerably, seeing if people will laugh or not laugh, and the courage that was shown with that. And this was not just any stand-up comedian. This was Pritam Poddar. Madam Toastmaster, Toastmasters, and all of us whose lives have been touched by Pritam. Tonight, I want to give a speech that is gratitude and praise for Pritam Poddar. Pritam has helped me in lots of ways, but in particular, he has shown me how to be brave, how to be still, and how to believe. Pritam has shown me how to be brave more than by just getting up and doing stand-up comedy at the Angry Goat. Pritam has shown me the deeper courage that comes from truly asking for help. And he's shown me that in Toastmasters. When I joined Toastmasters, I joined because I wanted to be more vulnerable and able to be imperfect in front of other people. One of the things that I realized very early on was that I was more insecure when I was practicing my speech for my 3 roommates than I was for the whole club. There was something about that small, intimate setting, and I was worried about what they thought of what I was saying. Preetham asks for feedback and practice for his speeches like a 3-year-old asks for sweets in the candy aisle. He is not afraid of it at all. He has forced me to ask myself, why am I so afraid of the thoughts and criticism of those closest to me? And that has taught me a lot of bravery. Preetham has taught me how to be still. As a lot of you know, Preetham and I went to Calcutta, India 1.5 years ago. And while we were there, we went on an odyssey in the Calcutta streets. It was fast, it was furious. We jumped from auto rickshaw to bus to motorcycle, narrowly escaping certain death on at least 3 occasions. The color was everywhere, from the women's saris to the temple palaces to the idols. India reminded me of my own life. It was fast, it was bustling, it was busy. But every morning in India, when I woke up, Preetham was not in his bed. I would find him up on the roof of his mother's house, meditating amongst the tops of the coconut trees and the mango trees and the wind rustling the branches. I would join him for the last 15 minutes of meditation because that's about all that my brain could handle. After that, we found ourselves meditating in many places, not the least of which was New York City's Central Park. Preetham helped show me that no matter how busy or crazy my life was, I could find a place to be still and to hear my heart. Finally, Preetham has taught me how to believe. In my years, I have been through lots of academic training, too many years. And in the process of that, I've lost a little bit of my childlike faith. So within a year of meeting Preetham, he was giving a speech at a TEDx event that was about looking past what things seem on the outward surface. And in that speech, he talked about drinking urine. And I was not a believer. I was like, what is the chemical structure of urine? How does it chemically help your eczema? Show me the reverse controlled double-blinded studies. After that, Preetham talked to me about the benefits of energy healing, acupuncture, Kriya Yoga. And I came to see that Preetham saw the world through the lens of possibilities, whereas I saw the world a lot more through a lens of skepticism and a lot less hope. And Preetham's belief is not only in ideas that may sound a little crazy at times, but Preetham's belief is in people. Preetham always sees the good in people. And he has shown me this through ToastMasters as well. Preetham, I've watched him mentor many mentees in ToastMasters, and he always sees the possibilities in those mentees. If your name happens to be Ruchi, he sees the possibility that you might become his wife as a mentee. Besides that, Preetham gives hard challenge as a mentor. He gave me a lot of hard challenge once that made me almost abandon a speech. But when Preetham gives challenge, he is saying to me, I believe that you are strong enough to take this challenge and to be better. Let me take this time now, Preetham, to say thank you for helping me to be brave and find a deeper courage, to be still and listen to my heart, and to believe in the good in myself and in others. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Matt. Showed us another perspective of Preetham through your eyes. This marks the completion of the first phase of our meeting, the prepared speeches. Now comes the second phase, the impromptu speech, where you don't get time to prepare, but you get time to speak. Go ahead with that. I would like to welcome the table topics master, Brendan.
Hello, everyone. Caught me a little off guard. I was getting my tea. Anyways, we are here for our impromptu speaking section. This is one of my favorite portions because it is one of my least favorite to participate in, as I know is pretty common throughout most people in the club. And especially if you're new to ToastMasters, there's occasionally the person who likes to talk. But being able to be asked a question and to speak on the spot quickly, concisely, is such a powerful tool. And one of the things in kind of a work setting environment that has been really helpful is one of the first projects I worked on in my company. I met a developer. He lives in the Rochester area, and I see him all the time. A lot of the restaurants that I frequent, he always seems to be there. So I bump into him a lot during the work week, and him and I will catch up and talk. He is by far the fastest talker I have ever met, and he'll ask you a question, and if you get a few words in kind of slowly, then he's off to the next topic and the next question. And not in a careless way, he's so excited to move on that if you falter in any way, he kind of just eats up the rest of the conversation. So what Table Topics has helped me over the years is to be able to be in the conversation, to be active, to really keep up with his pace. So one thing that we want to dive into first is a reminder of the timing requirements for Table Topics. So our timer, Ashutosh, can you remind us for Table Topic timing?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. For today's Table Topics, you will have 2 minutes. At the 1 minute mark, I will show you the green book. At the 2 minute and a 1 minute 30 second mark, I'll show you the orange folder. And at the 2 minute mark, I'll show you this red book. After that, you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your speech. Over to you, Table Topics Master.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ashutosh. And another reminder to qualify for the amazing to be given at a later date chocolate candy bar, you must use the word of the day. So can we have our grammarian remind us of the word of the day? Grant?
Thank you, Brendan. The word of the day is odyssey. It has two main definitions, one of them being a long wandering or voyage, usually marked by many changes of fortune. The other one being an intellectual or spiritual wandering or quest. To use the word of the day in a sentence again, in the 1970s, an Indian man went on an odyssey by riding his bike from India to Sweden, where the love of his life was waiting.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant. Now, one thing that will be helpful, I am working from my mobile phone. So if anyone wants to volunteer for the Table Topics, I can only see a handful of people at a time. So if you were interested, it might get a little messy, but unmute yourself and try and grab my attention. So first, our theme of the day, not all those who wander are lost. That is from Lord of the Rings. So this is going to be pretty specific request, and hopefully there's not anybody that can fulfill this, but do we have any people in the meeting right now that are not fans of Lord of the Rings or have never seen the Lord of the Rings? Anybody? Oh, Bhakti, I saw you raising your hand. All right, Bhakti, you ready for your question?
Oh, okay.
Fantastic. Good attitude. So not all those who wander are lost. Outside of the context of Lord of the Rings, tell us what you think that phrase means. Not all those who wander are lost. Bhakti.
It's a great question, actually. And this is one of my favorite quotes, but today I realized it's from The Lord of the Rings. I had no clue. The quote is taken from there. So, according to me, you never know life, where does it take you? For me, I never imagined I'll be traveling to a different country, let alone for education. because I thought I'll be the first one to quit when it comes to education. And I thought I was done with my college and that's it. But my mother encouraged me to study further, to be an expertise in the subject, and that's what encouraged me to finally look into options. And I did not even think America would be an option, but I am here now. And same with the Toastmasters. I always wanted to join Toastmasters. It's all around the world, but I would find some excuse for not joining it. And even when I joined Toastmasters on first day here in RIT, I thought, yeah, I would attend 1 or 2 sessions and then I'll skip out. But here I am, almost continuously attending it for 9 months. So life is unpredictable. So you just keep wandering and absorb what comes in your way. That's the odyssey of life, I would say. Over to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Well done, using the word of the day too, at the last minute. I'm sure most of us can attest that wandering led us here. It's definitely true of me as well. Took that little break of, okay, I'm done with school, and decided kind of last minute to continue my education, and I don't regret it for a minute because it led me here. Can we have another volunteer? You can be a fan of Lord of the Rings. All right, here, let's have from Conwall. We haven't not seen her in quite some time. Welcome.
Yeah.
Is that a background or a really fancy room you're in?
Well, welcome to my humble abode. No, it's a background.
Yep.
I took like 10 minutes to find a perfect background.
Now, that was literally a question, but that was not the question you're being asked for Table Topics. Wandering, especially in this time when the sun is shining, it's actually warm out again, especially in Rochester. What is your favorite place? Where and when is your favorite place to wander, and why?
Well, I am actually in Binghamton these days, and my favorite place here is the river. It's really pretty, and there's a river like 5 minutes walk from here, and especially because it's Ramadan these days, and we wake up at like 4 a.m., which it's really hard for me to do in normal days, but because of this spiritual odyssey that we are in these days, I'm up at 4 a.m. and we have our breakfast, and then I start my fasting, I offer prayer, and then I go out and just walk by the river. And it's the most peaceful and the most wonderful, especially during these times, because you can really feel it. There are not many people there, but whoever there are, they are just trying to be connected with the world. They are keeping their distance with you, but there is a lot of eye contact. There's a lot of kind of like nodding and just appreciating, and we are just appreciating the world together. So I think that is my favorite place these days. In Rochester, I don't know, I was really busy, so I didn't really have time to go out. So I would always go to the falls nearby, the Ithaca Falls or someplace, but not in Rochester.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kamal. Another volunteer.
Or is it?
I heard somebody chirp.
Oh.
All right, I see Alex.
Okay.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, Brandon.
All right, tell us about it. This is one that I was excited to ask, and I was so glad that our Toastmaster asked a variation or in different words this question. So, Alex, tell us about a time in your life that you wandered and were wandering and found yourself.
Well, I was set to wander. The Alex Turner, who just renamed me. How's that possible? I was set to wandering by my last employer was a small archery equipment company called the Outdoor Group. They laid me off, and I had to wander around a little bit. I had about 6 months of unemployment during the most beautiful time of year. If you're going to be unemployed, May is a perfect time to be it. And I wandered. I didn't want to go back to industrial engineering at a company that made stuff. I wanted to help people. And I wandered to a private school and thought about teaching. And then I realized I did not have the energy for that odyssey of keeping an entire room of middle school aged children engaged. They were like snapping and running all over the room and talking to 4 different people at the same time. It was awe-inspiring and totally not something I could do. I wandered to hospitals. I wandered finally to a nonprofit agency where I work now, Catholic Family Center. And I have found a place for myself to spend 8 hours a day that I love. I have a team now of folks that are really focused on trying to help people, keep people housed during this time that so many people have lost income, and we're trying to figure out how we can help. I mean, there's all this money that's available from the government, from the federal government and the state government and our city and county, but someone actually has to do the work to get that money to people, and that's what our job is going to be for the next couple months. And it is crazy busy, and it is very difficult. It's going to be an odyssey, but it is also going to be very rewarding. Wandered, found myself. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. And by extension, thank you on behalf of Rochester for all that you do. Wonderful. All right, I think at least one more. I need a Lord of the Rings fan. All right, Preetam. I'm glad it's you, being an experienced Toastmaster. You get a little bit of a tricky one. You ready for this?
Sure.
This is specific to Lord of the Rings, but then you get to be a little creative. The secret word to enter Moria is Melon, or friend. If you had to choose a secret word, what would it be? And what would it be that you were protecting?
Okay. If I had a secret word to enter a secret world, what would it be? And what would I choose? Okay. So I think I have the perfect answer for that. I made a journey sometime back, about a year back, to a country called Peru, where I met a group of people who call themselves Incas. And the Incas have a very secret recipe for making this tea called ayahuasca. So the tea, what it does, that it has a special molecule that is called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And this DMT molecule is naturally present in our bodies. It's secreted only 2 times during our lifetime, once during our birth and once during our death, in our pineal gland right here. So what that ayahuasca does is that it creates the DMT in your body, and it induces an altered state of consciousness. So when I took that, it was a very fascinating experience. The experience was like we had a group of 12 people inside a hut drinking the ayahuasca brew, and it was a vomit fest going on. People were vomiting left and right, everybody vomiting around me. And for 4 hours, we were having all these visions. So I think if I had a secret word, that would be DMT, because that holds the key to get access to a world that is always around us, but we cannot normally see with our physical eyes. So DMT would be my word to take that odyssey into the other world.
Wonderful. Thank you, my melon. Mr. Timer, the original agenda was kind of funky with the extra speech, silent evaluations. Do we have time for one more or 8 more? I don't really know where we stand. Can you give me some direction?
Yeah, we could do one more.
All right, one more it is. One more volunteer.
Oh, I got you, Brendan. Or Cyril.
Wonderful. All right, Xavier, I think you volunteered multiple times and got ignored. So here we go. Would you like a Lord of the Rings question or just a generic question from the theme of the day?
Ooh. I think we're gonna have to go generic.
Okay. Sometimes wandering isn't the pleasure-ridden stroll that we take. Sometimes it can be aimless, filled with doubt. So when you're aimlessly wandering out there, whether physically or emotionally, spiritually, what do you do to recenter yourself?
That, my friend, is a good question. And I feel like it's probably been one of the biggest adventures or odysseys that I've been going through even most recently. And it started back in August when I get a text from Freedom about being part of a startup. My fancy ideas of making money as I come out of college, 7 or 5 years of math has taught me that that's a good plan. Instead, got changed for working for an equity of a company that's worth currently nothing. But I decided to take this math challenge on and work with Freedom to discover something new in 3D printing and show it to the world, because this was something that was something I dreamed of even before college. And what it's brought is some amazing experiences of getting closer to a team of Freedom and Justin, but also has brought a lot of challenges and times when I thought, where I get very frustrated or discouraged because things did not seem to be going our way. An example of this was when Corona happened. A grant that we applied for 4 months beforehand seemed to just cancel out of thin air. And it's something that we were relying on quite heavily, and got very discouraged by. But where I go to when discouragement does happen is I meet with Alex every morning, and he gets to listen to where I'm at. He's taken that on, and it's something that kind of grounds me for the day, and makes me kind of ready for anything. And to know that I'm one message away from someone that can help ground me, encourage me when it's necessary, challenge me when it's necessary, is huge. And that has kept me going forward. And good news, we did get the grant and everything's virtual, and it's been pretty cool.
Beautiful response, Xavier. Wonderful. Before we move on to voting, Mr. Timer, did everybody meet the timing requirements?
Everybody except Xavier, sorry, you went overboard with a timing of 2 minutes 40 seconds.
10 seconds.
Yep.
And Mr. Grammarian, did everybody use the word of the day?
Yes, they did. And Alex used it twice. So maybe he gets double the votes? I don't know. How does that work?
It doesn't. All right, send all your votes to me. Unfortunately, Xavier is exempt from this voting, but he can actually still vote. Imagine that. Send them to me, and the Toastmaster will reveal the winner of Table Topics later. Let's move the meeting back to Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Brendan, for the impromptu session. And on the next is our evaluation section, where we get to evaluate all the prepared speeches and get to know where everybody can learn from. For that, I would like to bring in Deb, who will be the general evaluator for the evening.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. So this portion of the meeting, we get to hear evaluations. Not all who wander are lost, but I can imagine that those hobbits could have used some help and feedback. So we're gonna, don't laugh. We're gonna implement that same practice here. But before we jump in and do that, we actually have some timing rules. So Mr. Timer, can you go over the rules for the evaluations?
Thank you. So for the evaluation section, the evaluators will have 3 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, I will show you the green book. At the 2.5-minute mark, I'll show you the orange folder. And at the 3-minute mark, I will show you the red book. Post which you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your evaluation. Thank you. Over to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. So to begin our evaluations is Pritam. Pritam, please share your evaluation with us.
Right. I am evaluating Hassan's speech, and Hassan's purpose for this project was to learn to review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. The topic that Hassan chose was all about superstitions. And what I liked about Hassan's speech was he took the decision to stand and deliver his speech. That just shows that he's committed to his speech. He's leading us. He's standing up, getting his blood flow going all through his body. So that is a very, he positioned himself well to lead us throughout the speech. Other thing was your preparation, Hassan. So Hassan, it was very clear that Hassan had taken the time to actually sit down and prepare for the speech. I don't sit down or standing up, but he did prepare for the speech. It was very clear through the number of examples that he gave throughout the speech. And it included examples from all over the world, not just a specific thing. The other thing that I liked about Hassan's speech was your expressions, the expressions that you use, especially when you said that Michael Jordan wore the same underwear for every match, and you did this. That was very fun. That was excellent. The one thing that I was little confused about Hassan, your speech was, when I was initially listening to your speech, I was little confused whether you were talking really about superstitions or traditions. And being a PhD, I think the best way to present a research is to take just one topic and dive really deep into it. So when you really dive deep into a topic, you will find out that even something like a superstition is not all bad. There are good sides to it and bad sides to it. So when you do research, you have to present the good sides and the bad sides. And you can present your opinion, but that's the most effective form of research. When you take just one specific topic, maybe if you took Michael Jordan, how Michael Jordan started wearing the same underwear, the problems that it caused him, and also the confidence that it gave him, maybe wearing the same underwear for every match. That would be a very good deep research. So that's my feedback about your research. But Hassan, like I said, your body language was very clear. You were calm, confident, delivering the speech, and your expressions were great. So keep up the good preparation while you do the speech, and you will excel doing the research. The only thing is, when you do some research topic, take the time to dive deep into one specific topic and not multiple examples to dilute your research. Back to general evaluate.
Thank you, Hassan, for sharing your speech, and Pritam for your evaluation. It makes any Odyssey that much better to get the feedback and evaluation. So our Odyssey through giving speeches, this is a really essential part of that process. Next up, I have Kelly. Kelly, please go ahead and share your evaluation.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Ajita. What a beautiful speech. That was a wonderful description of your 4 mothers. And I loved your beginning. I knew from your title that it was going to be probably about a mom. But speaking about, I had 4. I liked how you kind of gave us that introduction and left us hanging until after your introduction to the Toastmasters. So that was a great way to start your speech, very inquisitive. And I loved how you described them as a joint family. They were strong women. And then how you described each of them, all the values and the lessons that they taught you with food, skills, education, building character, finances. Those are essential life qualities. And these women were such a big part of your life to draw those interests to you and to instill them in you. So thank you for sharing that. It really helped us get to know a foundation in your life. You also had a really good pause in the beginning before we started. Sometimes on the videos, when we're transitioning to someone to start their speech, they start right away and you miss the beginning, but you paused for a moment. So that was a really good way to start. I liked how you used a couple of words in Hindi and then interpreted them for us. That was really neat and something that we could learn from, you using your native tongue to describe something and then giving us the meaning. You did use some vocal variety. You asked me to look for that with your second mother. I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but you began with a different voice, and I could tell that that was changing the dialogue there. So that was a good way to incorporate that. You also used some good humor, a couple of laughing moments in some of those explanations. So that was a wonderful way to keep us engaged. And I love the sentence you talked about, how they were eager to see the world through your eyes, and how that became, you took all these things and you became you. You weren't just following these people blindly. You really used all those lessons and incorporated them in your life. So a couple things to improve on. In your grammar part, which Grant might mention, but I noticed you said, I called each of my aunts as mom. So I think saying it, I called each of my aunts mom. You don't have to put that interjection as in there. Or I called each of my aunts mother. Something like that to make that transition. Also, it's difficult in this arena, but using your space a little bit might be a good way to keep the audience going as well. You just stayed in the same place throughout your speech, and maybe, shifting to each mother. You could just move in 4 different spaces as you described each one. And then you asked me to look for some expressions. I didn't see too many, but some of those humorous parts, if you smile a little or pause after we laugh, although you can't hear us, imagine we're laughing. That'll give us a moment to keep going with you there. Also, in moments of more serious, you could pause a little bit there or look down, or in moments of intrigue, you could look up in the sky. So those are a couple of ideas for more expressions, but overall, wonderful speech. Thank you for sharing your heart with us, Madam Toastmaster, or Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Ajita, for sharing your stories. Absolutely love them. Next up, we have Roberta Benedict, it looks like, who's on the move, giving her evaluation. You can go ahead, Roberta.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. And thank you, Matt, for giving us a great speech about more than just a good guy. To just start off, you had wonderful organization, splitting your speech out into 3 main points: to be brave, to be still, and to believe. You also sprinkled wonderful, colorful language throughout your speech and bits of humor in there to convey the heart of of who Pritam is to you, and that was really great. Setting aside kind of the scaffolding of your speech and really looking at the content, the heart of it, something you excelled at was what you were praising Pritam for. I loved that you talked about vulnerability and courage being the things that you're praising this other person for. I thought that was amazing, and also a reflection of your own vulnerability to express what it is that you appreciate so much about Pritam. A couple of things, I think, kind of just digging in to find something. Again, it's video, but to maintain the eye contact, especially when you were talking about that piece of why don't you seek feedback from the people that you're closest to? And you did some of it, and then you kind of faded in and out. But I think that part was especially critical because you're talking about being vulnerable. So really trying to connect with the audience there. Something else that you kind of did, I saw it very clearly with your example of being still. You gave the example of how Pritam taught you to be still and what you were able to do with that when you were in the busy world of New York City, to find a quiet place to quiet your heart, even in the chaos. I would have loved to see maybe a more clear example of that with both the brave and the believe. What did it look like the next time you asked for feedback from those closest to you? Did you take that risk? Did you start drinking your own urine or something else that made you a believer, that next step? So you're shaking your head now. But wonderful speech, wonderful topic to be vulnerable about and to uphold just the heart of who Pritam is, and someone, like you said, we've all been wonderfully blessed to know him. So wonderful speech, and good luck being a believer for the next thing, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Roberta. I feel like Pritam, at some point you're going to have to re-give that urine speech, because I don't know if a lot of us have heard it or not. And thank you, Matt, for sharing your stories of our dearly loved Pritam. Next up, we are going to do our functionaries report, just to kind of give an idea overall of how we've done. And then at the end, I will give everyone some of my thoughts about how the meeting went. So to get us started, we'll go with Mr. Timer.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We had a great meeting today. Almost everybody was on time. Starting with the speakers, Hassan was 6 minutes 30 seconds. Ajita was 5 minutes 31 seconds. Matt was 6 minutes 40 seconds. Everybody in the table topic section, except for Xavier, was on time. For the evaluators, Pritam was 2 minutes 57 seconds. Kelly was 3 minutes 55 seconds. Sorry, Kelly, you went a little overboard there. And Roberta was 2 minutes 20 seconds. That's it for the timer report. Over to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you. And next we will have our grammarian give our report.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Overall, I think the actual evaluators for each of the prepared speeches covered them very well. I have a couple of additions I can make here. Hassan, your grammar was very accurate, very almost textbook. There wasn't really anything that I could particularly say was wrong. Maybe make it pop a little bit more, maybe use more visual descriptions if you can, but overall, very good grammar. Then we have Ajita. I like the quote, "Don't be afraid of trying new things. If no one appreciates it, your father will always have your back." I think I wrote that down right. It was a very good quote there. And in terms of improvements, your evaluator mentioned the one thing. I will add that there were a couple times during your speech that the pluralizations were a little bit questionable. Like, for instance, later in the speech I heard, anytime I talk to any of my mom instead of moms. There was once before that I didn't write down, but yeah, that sort of pluralization caught my attention a couple times during your speech. Overall, very good. Then we have Matt, of course, very good grammar as well. I'm using very good often, so maybe I shouldn't. We went on an odyssey in the Kolkata streets. You didn't need to use word of the day, but you did. And so I could appreciate that. And paraphrasing here, Pritam saw the world through possibilities. I don't really have any improvements to make on your speech either in terms of grammar. So that's all I wrote down. And I will turn it back to Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Grant. And next up is our counter, who I'm not 100% sure who that is right now. Hey, okay.
So in terms of filler words, this might be one of the best reports I have written. So much so that I can reuse the paper I have used. So first up, for the speakers, Hassan and Matt, you did not use any filler word, which is very impressive. And Ajita, there was just one repetition. That is impressive enough. For the table topics, Kanwal had some filler words as well as Xavier, but other than that, good job, guys. For general evaluation, Preetham had none. Kelly had 2 R's and Roberta had 5 ums. Chitra, the Toastmaster, had 6 R's and Brendan had none. Deb, you had 1 R, which is very impressive. Over to you, general evaluator.
Thank you so much. It's the least amount of ums I've used in a while. So overall, looking at how I feel like, oh my gosh, I did two. How the meeting progressed. We got a little bit of a late start, but honestly, that's not bad. I think, given that I'm not quite sure what happened with our previous assigned Toastmaster, I'm very pleased at how quickly it seems like Chitra was able to jump in. I think that's something we're really strong in as a club is, even if we weren't prepared to do something, I noticed that many of us are able to just rise to the challenge and accept the challenge, and we may wander through the process, and that's okay. But we accept each other along with some of the struggles we have with learning new roles and completing new roles. I know that's something that makes it such an encouraging environment and presence for our visitors, for our guests. So I appreciate all of you and just how we're so good at that. I think overall that's the feedback I had about this meeting. Thank you everyone for attending, and I will hand it back over to our Toastmaster for the evening.
Thank you, Deb. And the impromptu session has a winner. Let's have a drum roll for the table topics winner. Let's all unmute us. It's Kanwal. Yay!
Hello.
Yay.
Who was it?
Kanwal.
It was Cornwall, right?
Yes, Kanwal. Yes, yes.
Okay. It's hard to hear because we're all counting.
Oh, I'm sorry. The winner of the table topic session is Kanwal.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Kanwal, for coming in and facing us. How did you like the session today? I know you have been in the Tigertales quite a few times before. Do you see some changes? What did you like and what did you dislike about this meeting?
I think I'm loving this one because it's really hard for me usually to get up and just go out of the house and just, go to the university to join. This setup, I like this one. The problem with me though is that it's Ramadan, so it's about the fasting time for us. The breaking the fast time for us. So I couldn't join earlier, but I'm hoping from next week I will be here every week.
Stack these ones up then or what? We'll stack.
That's great, Kanwal. And as you all know, the next week is all about the graduation of class of 2020. And if anybody wants to give a speech, recent grads or grads who want to be, who want to give us a speech, or anybody who would like to relive their graduation time, please
go a little bit.
Let's have a speech-a-thon on that. Anybody interested who would like to volunteer for the next week's graduation speech-a-thon? Any volunteers?
Oh.
I would like to give a speech.
Serial, Ajita, Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody there. That's good. Are you making a note of all these people so you can pull them up again? I hope she's doing it. Send you a text on that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I'm trying to get everybody. Sorry, I was muted. I got Cyril, Ajita, and Alex, but I can see most people, but not all.
Kanwal wanted to give as well.
Yeah.
What about Ashutosh, Preetham, Xavier, Austin, Grant?
You know, like even though it's like my 4th year, I didn't feel like 2020 was like. I didn't feel like I graduated. I had the online ceremony, but I was like, nah.
Maybe the speech will make you feel like you're actually graduating. That's what you're missing.
Yeah. I had a question. Does it count toward our speeches as Toastmaster, or it's just a speech like this?
You can make it
Be good for me. I don't mind.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, as long as it's okay. Does it work that way? Can we have speeches that are not in our pathways?
I don't
You can
know.
find
When
a place to make them count.
I'm sorry?
Sarah was saying something.
Yeah, even if it's not like your next project, you can always find a place to make that speech.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I still don't know when I'm going to graduate, but I can give a speech.
We'll do a proper one. What about you, Bhakti? Thank you. I'm not graduating. Just a taste of graduation. So Bhakti and Preetham too on the list. Yes.
What is the time limit?
I'm sorry.
What is the timing?
Timing is in the same on our normal club timing, so it's 6:30 next Wednesday.
No, time limit.
I think we have like 5 speakers now, and if we can have 5 minutes, so we can have everybody can have a chance to speak as well, and go through in our own schedule.
You mean 5 to 7?
Yeah, the usual 5 to 7.
All right.
We're just doing no evaluations then, or silent evaluations, or
Evaluations. Evaluations. I don't know. Sarah, can you help me out? Will we be able to find in people to evaluate us, or?
We need evaluations, whether they're spoken or silent. That is something that we can talk about. I imagine if we skip table topics, we could have spoken evaluations, especially if evaluators stick to the time limit. But always speeches should be evaluated.
Okay, then there's spot for evaluations of the graduation speakers as well.
How many speeches is it then?
It's 6 right now.
6? So silent evaluations then.
So many registrars.
It would be, right?
I mean,
it's better to have silent evaluations with so many speakers and table topics.
so we will have table topics and we'll have silent evaluations.
That works well. Yeah, then. And with that, I would like to adjourn our meeting.